and to each other, hinting to the fact that Unitarian Universalist churches are congregationalist in nature, meaning that, among other things, we call and ordain our own clergy, that each congregation maintains a covenant amongst its members and between each congregation, and that each congregation is responsible for self-governance, a tradition that dates back to the Cambridge Platform of 1648. In fact, of the 65 congregations that voted to ratify the platform in 1648, 21 of those are members of the UUA today. In that tradition, we ordained Charlotte on September 14, 2014, and today we will install her as our minister after her settlement was approved unanimously at our congregation's annual business meeting this past May. The installation of a settled minister is similar to a marriage, in that we promise to live in covenant with Charlotte and she with us, respecting our similarities and our differences, as long as it's in the best interest of the church and of Charlotte. To witness this event, we're blessed to have in attendance members of our local clergy from several different faith traditions, members of the clergy from the Unitarian Universalist tradition, and staff from the UUA housed in Boston, and also founding, charter, and current members of our congregation. There are also visitors from UU congregations in our area and across the region. I'd like to extend a special thank you to Charlotte and Leo's family members, some of who are here today. I firmly believe that strong support systems like the one that Charlotte and Leo have in their families make excellent ministry possible. So thank you from all of us for benefiting to reap the benefits of your support. I've asked you to put your phones in worship mode, as Ian says, and we'll begin this historic service.
Our chalice lighting today was written by me with help from Kathy Tanner. Today, we light this chalice in celebration of the many blessings we have received as a congregation, including the gift and guidance of a loving and wise minister. And today, our chalice shines brighter than it ever has. May it always be so.
Please stand as you're willing and able and join us in singing Spirit of Life. Words are in your program.
The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength is too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed.
It is now time for our offertory. As is tradition for ordination and installations in our faith, a special offertory is collected in order to support the Living Tradition Fund, which helps to alleviate the financial burden Unitarian and Universalist ministers may face over the course of their careers. Assistance includes need-based scholarships for theological studies, new minister assistance to reduce the burden of higher educational debt and repayment, and emergency assistant grants for seminarians, ministers, religious professionals, and other congregational staff, retired ministers, and their loved ones. Please give generously to this cause.
When I was a child each week, on Sundays we would go to church and pay attention to the priest, and he would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. And when I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad, miracles don't happen still. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but I know that a magic trick is that everything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but find where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips. Now I have to hold my breath. It's like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, having second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a bold day, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Read the questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. That would be very hard to say. And see another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird, shining like a burning bush, and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. Used to be a world half there, heaven second rate and me down. I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now.
Thank you for your generous contributions.
Thank you very much, Vanessa and Roy. That was very beautiful. I'm Ian Cowie. I'm president of the Georgia Mountains Unitarian Universalist Church. Our speaker this afternoon is Reverend Dawn Cooley. She is a congregational life staff member of the southern region of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Previously, she served as the minister of the First Unitarian Church in Louisville, Kentucky for 7 years. Reverend Cooley is passionate about helping congregations adapt to the changing cultural religious landscape. Prior to Louisville, she and her family lived in Minnesota and was very active in the Prairie Star District. This is important because it ties into the next thing I say. She briefly played competitive roller derby with the Derby City Roller Girls. Now, Reverend Cooley also believes that Unitarian Universalists are called to love the hell out of the world. And she tries to practice that on a regular, daily basis. Reverend Cooley.
Thank you, Ian. It is a pleasure to be here with you today. You're probably going to get sick of hearing me talk, but that's okay, because then I'll be gone. That's the nice thing about being a consultant, is I can swoop in and be with you and walk a little ways with you, and then when you're tired of me, I can go away for a little while. But I'll be back. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today, representing the southern region of the Unitarian Universalist Association. No right is more precious to a congregation than a right to choose their own clergy. It is something that distinguishes our free faith from many others, and it is a hallmark of how we are with one another. But unlike many installations, this one does not mark the start of a relationship, but instead recognizes a bond that already exists, one that has transformed through the years. Y'all know each other pretty well by now, and you know what you're getting into. Your relationship and your history of ministry together and what you can look forward to in the future reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from the Reverend Jack Mendelson, who said that the future of the liberal church is almost totally dependent on these two factors: great congregations, whether large or small, and effective, dedicated ministers. The strangest feature of their relationship, he said, is that they create one another. Great congregations create effective and dedicated ministers, and effective, dedicated ministers create great congregations. It is a mutually beneficial relationship, and I have certainly seen that that is indeed the case here. Y'all have made a good choice. The precious right of the congregation to choose their own clergy and of the minister to choose which congregation they want to serve is often compared to marriage, as you heard Frank mention just a few moments ago. Probably because marriage is the covenantal relationship with which we are most familiar. And indeed, there are many similarities. But the metaphor also falls apart, and so it is one that we clergy often cringe away from. Beyond the fact that Reverend Charlotte is already married, and no, you don't get partial custody of Leo and the kids, I want to take a few minutes to look more deeply at this comparison and see where it works and where it does not work. On the one hand, Marriage and ministry are a choice that is made by both parties, the congregation and the minister. No one can tell you who to choose as a minister, not the UUA, not the Southern region, no one. We may give guidelines or suggestions, we provide best practices, but we cannot tell you who to call as your minister. Likewise for a minister, we do not place them in congregations. Ministers get to choose the congregation that they want to serve, and they usually choose one whose needs for ministry match up with their own interests and talents. Marriage and ministry are similar in that there is a free choice between each party. On the other hand, unlike the covenant of marriage, which in its idealized version lasts until death do you part, the relationship of one particular minister to one particular congregation makes no pretense at lasting forever. In fact, the average tenure of a minister is a little under 7 years. Reverend Charlotte won't be the last minister for this congregation. I remember looking at the plaque of names and of the ministers who had served First Unitarian Church in Louisville before me. I felt as though I stood on the shoulder of giants. Someday, perhaps, some minister of yours will look at the pictures of ministers on the wall or a plaque of names like the plaque of names you have for board presidents in the back. And perhaps that minister in the future will feel similarly thankful to those who came before. In this way, ministry is not like marriage. The congregation endures. The ministry of the congregation endures as ministers come and go. The reality is that one day Reverend Charlotte will no longer be your minister. This may seem fatalistic to be talking about today, but I don't think it is. Because today, while it is a celebration of Reverend Charlotte's ministry here with you, it is also a celebration of your ministry. And you have at least 2 ministers here today who have served you in some capacity before. It is a celebration of your ministry as a congregation, which will last far beyond one minister's tenure. Georgia Mountains Unitarian Universalist Church has a mission here in Dahlonega and the surrounding area. A mission to bring the saving message of Unitarian Universalism to those who need to hear it. To be prophetic witnesses to justice in an area that often feels differently. A mission that you have been living for over 24 years and that you will be living 24 years into the future and beyond. Your ministry will endure, and as you have in the past and today, someday you will welcome another minister you love dearly and are excited to work with. Someone else who will mingle their calling with yours as you work together towards a planet transformed by your care. In this way, ministry is not like marriage. The tenure of an individual minister is finite, and that is as it should be. Another comparison. The fact that the tenure is finite does not mean that it is shallow. Ministry and marriage are similar in that the emotional and spiritual bonds between ministers and congregations are quite intimate. We walk with you through your ups and downs, your pastoral crises. We are often the first call you make when the police show up at your door in the middle of the night, or you get in a car wreck and don't know who else to call because you're so shaken up. We will marry you to your loved one, walk with your family through a celebration of life when your time on earth has ended. We will hear your arguments about money, about complex situations like what social justice issues to be involved in and how in the community. We know things. We carry things about your lives as individuals and as a congregation that at times can feel very heavy. On the other hand, ministry is not like marriage because this level of emotional and spiritual intimacy is one-sided. It is our job, and you cannot lighten the load for us. Your minister is not your friend, even though we are friendly and even though we love you. Because you're not going to be able to be there for us in the same way that we are there for you. It cannot be. Part of this is because we need to be able to minister to the whole congregation, and so we don't want to give the appearance of there being an in crowd with the minister, that we like some of you more than others. And a large part of it is because we can't tell you about our work in the same way that we would gripe and moan to friends of ours, like about how exhausted the chair of the Maypole committee is making us, or how a particular congregant is rubbing us the wrong way these days. We can't talk about that stuff with you. And part of the reason that this intimacy is one-sided too is connected to the previous point. We know that someday we will have to leave. And when we do, we need to create the space for a new minister to serve the congregation. Our professional guidelines tell us that we are to cut off contact with congregants when we leave, so that it is clear that the new minister is the minister. 1 year ago, just about, October 23rd, not that I'm counting, I left the congregation I served for 7 years. I still love them dearly, and I miss them. But they have a new minister now, an interim, and I want her to be successful. And then they will call a new minister, and I want that new minister to be successful too. Their allegiances and loyalty will transfer to the new minister better if I am not in the picture. So I stay away, as all my colleagues do when we leave a congregation, because I want the ministry of that congregation to be successful, and that will not happen if I'm not there, or if I'm still there. Someday, perhaps, I will be able to go back, maybe 2 years after the new settled minister arrives, but in the meantime, I stay away. But even that is not the only or even the primary reason that your minister is not your friend. The primary reason is that one day you will need to talk to someone, and you will need that person to speak truth to you in a way that a friend cannot. A person who can call you to your higher purpose, who can challenge you, who can ask you the difficult questions that friends often dance around. The questions of life or death, the questions of value and purpose. You will need a person that you are close to but who is removed from the situation, who will take an event that may be cringeworthy, may be embarrassing, may even be about illegal information, and they won't let it taint your relationship with them. Because that is something that we are trained to do, to meet you where you are in authenticity, even if that place is scary and horrifying. So ministry is not like marriage in that this emotional and spiritual intimacy is not one-sided. Don't expect your minister to be your friend, and don't be surprised when she draws strong boundaries around your relationship. Which leads to the final comparison that I want to make this afternoon. On the one hand, marriage and ministry are similar because in order for the relationship to succeed, we each have to do our own work. The congregation is responsible for governing and managing the congregation. The minister is responsible for providing spiritual leadership and guidance. When we stay in our own lanes in shared ministry, the relationship will thrive. This is how great ministers and great congregations create each other, by knowing and doing their own stuff together. If a congregation is asking the minister to chair the stewardship team, that is a red flag. The minister should be involved in stewardship, of course, but it is the congregation's work to make it happen. If the minister is over-functioning and not letting the congregation do their work, I speak from experience here, I must confess, then it disables the congregation in the future because the congregation's muscles for ministry become atrophied. Additionally, we each need to be growing in our roles together. The minister needs to engage with colleagues and in continuing education and professional development opportunities. The congregation should be growing, if not numerically, then growing in maturity or in spiritual depth or in your presence in the community. We each need to do our own work together. In this way, ministry is like marriage. And on the other hand, and most importantly, ministry is not like marriage in that rather than doing this work in service of the relationship, We do it in service of the mission, of our call to minister to a broken world. Ministry is a communal enterprise. It draws from collective strength, collective aspiration, collective love, and it seeks to make it real by offering it to others in order to serve the mission of the congregation. Those of us in congregational life staff are fond of pointing out that it is not actually the congregation that owns, or the congregation that owns the congregation. It is the mission that owns the congregation. It is certainly not the relationship between the minister and the congregation. Instead, each are working together alongside each other communally to bring the mission to fulfillment. The mission provides the container in which this covenant between minister and congregation takes life. It provides the structure, the motivation, the calling, the higher purpose that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own. It broadens our vision and renews our strength. In this way, marriage and ministry are very different. Today we celebrate the relationship between a minister and a congregation. It is in many ways like the covenant of marriage. We enter it in choice. It is spiritually and emotionally intimate, and we each have to do our own work to make the relationship successful. But it is not like marriage in many fundamental ways. It is not forever. The intimacy is by necessity one-sided, and the higher call is not the relationship itself, but the call of the mission. Georgia Mountains UU Church and Reverend Charlotte, today is such a joyous day for you all. It is an honor to be here and celebrate this event with you. May this settlement mark the next step in your journey as a congregation. May it enrich all your lives, and may you continue to create one another. Great congregation and effective, dedicated minister. Blessed be. May it be so.
Day by day,
free congregation than that of choosing its own minister. By the same token, no right is more precious to a Unitarian Universalist minister than that of choosing the congregation she will serve. The coming together of the congregation and minister assumes special significance when there is involved, as here, a great tradition of liberal leadership. It is with profound feeling, therefore, that we formally recognize the relationship now existing between the people of the Georgia Mountains Unitarian Universalist Church and the Reverend Charlotte Arsenault, whom we have freely chosen and who has freely chosen us. Our choice is based not only on our heritage, but also upon the hopes and aspirations we hold for the future. This service symbolizes 24 years of a vibrant history of leadership. We have been led by both beloved lay leaders and ministers, but have never installed a called minister at GMUUC. We affirm this act, the goals towards which we strive, and the ideals by which we sustain and strengthen. Will the members please rise and join me in saying aloud our covenant to Reverend Charlotte, printed in your order of service. We, the congregation
of Georgia Mountains Unitarian Universalist Church, welcome the Reverend Charlotte Arsenault, ordained Unitarian Universalist minister, into our community as our minister and enter into covenant with her this day. We recognize that GMUUC is a community where vulnerability, intimacy, trust, and accountability must strive for our ministry to be a success. We seek to establish such a culture between ourselves and our minister, embodying love as the spirit of our church and service as its law. We welcome Reverend Charlotte as our spiritual leader to challenge and reassure us, to open new aspects of spirituality, and to lead us in worship. We trust her to represent us in our community, and we stand with her as she advocates for the liberal ideals and justice so basic to our faith. We promise to respect Reverend Charlotte's time, home, and family, treating her time as her precious commodity, and the members of her family as valued individuals. Welcome. So may it be.
This is my covenant with you, the members of Georgia Mountains Unitarian Universalist Church. I will serve this congregation as the settled minister. I join with you in our shared life as a religious community. As an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister, I will uphold the professional and ethical standards of the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association and the Ministerial Fellowship Committee. In my relationship with you, the congregation, I will explore the meaning of Unitarian Universalism so that as my faith deepens, our faith may deepen together. In my ministry at GMUUC, I will work alongside each of you to advance our mission in the hopes of one day achieving our powerful vision. I will not shy away from speaking truth to power, and I will challenge your own perceptions that limit the opening of the heart. I will do so out of love, commitment to growth, and dedication to the values put forth by Georgia Mountains Unitarian Universalist Church and the Unitarian Universalist Association. I will seek to balance transparency with confidentiality, welcoming your input, questions, and challenges so that our congregational life and ministry within and beyond these walls complement and nourish each other. I will be mindful of the trust and hope and care that you, the congregation, have given me through the act of installing me as your minister.
Having exchanged covenants with each other, we now entrust you with the ministry, Reverend Charlotte Arsenault, and we offer you our honored and unfettered pulpit. We offer you also a congregation eager to seek the truth and to live our lives in the spirit of siblings. Will you accept the responsibility of leading and guiding us in this search, and will you serve us devotedly to the best of your ability?
I will.
Then, by the power invested in me as representative of this congregation, I now install you as a minister of Georgia Mountain Unitarian Universalist Church this day, October the 8th, 2017.
Vanessa and I wrote this blessing in honor of Reverend Charlotte and the shared ministry that she has with members of our congregation. We give thanks and bless those who serve our beloved community. To Reverend Charlotte, our called minister and spiritual leader, we give thanks for all that she has given and all that is yet to come. We wish her wisdom and courage and good humor as she leads our church forward. But let us remember that while Charlotte is our called minister, she is not alone in ministry in our church. Each one of us, each one of you, is also called to the blessed service. To those who teach our children and youth, provide our beautiful music, help our members and those in the community, maintain our buildings, advocate for social justice, prepare wonderful food, donate money, or give gifts of your time and talent. We thank each of you. We wish you integrity and compassion in your choices and decisions. May you meet our church's challenges and adventures with a clear mind and a bold heart. As we go forward together in our UU ministry, may we share the shining light of our joy with each other and with the wider world. May we share our love and all that we have and know the transformative power of giving. May we explore the known and the unknown together, walking in the world with reverence for its beauty and sacredness. With open minds and hearts, let us challenge ourselves to greater compassion as we care for one another within this congregation and unite in our sacred covenant to serve the world. In the spirit of love, amen. Blessed be. May it be so.
Interestingly, I have experienced a challenge that I'm going to speak to. You know, I was an accredited interim minister, and my primary emphasis was to kind of offer a complementary aspect to mission being what our churches are about. It's also relational. There's a horizontal and a vertical dimension, and we come together at the heart. That's what I want to lift up. Instead of the word charge, I'm going to use the word invitation. I invite you, each and all of you, to freely enter the dance of the heart with your minister, Charlotte, the Reverend Charlotte Arsenault. May yours be a dance that's deep and meaningful, joyful and effective, long and loving. To this invitation, I bring the faith of our forebears, the Universalists. And Don has the symbol right on his stole right there. The Universalists not only were, but are. They dance with the heart. They are centered in the heart. We Universalists are centered in the heart, grounded in the love of God. And when I say heart space, which is the word I'm going to use, what I mean is embraced and grounded and graced by love. Dear friends, and I can say that because I've preached here many times, I summon you to live with love. I invite and encourage you to create and hold heart space. This is the core virtue of Unitarian Universalism, our grounding and our source. And whenever you relate with each other and with your minister, be aware that you are on the dance floor of love. In the boardroom or the committees, in the fellowship hall or in your homes, in worship or in the streets. Keep in your heart and mind that you are dancing love's presence. And especially when in relation with Reverend Charlotte, I ask that you hold a heart space with her and for her. Now, what might this mean in your week-to-week, daily kinds of activities? How might you be together and embraced and graced by love? In what way might this invitation I'm giving you be fixed, set, memorable? Well, I'm going to offer you this, and then a surprise. Move together in a soulful dance partnership. Trust your partner. Be together with mutual compassion with each other and be courteous and patient. Enter into empathy as your natural ways of relating and be together with equanimity. Honor the needs of each other as equals. And of course, follow the golden rule. Now, here is the little surprise. As a way to help you remember dancing in the ways of heart presence. About this, dance itself is going to help model, help remind you of all that has been said today. One is courtesy. You don't dance with somebody jerking them around, you're courteous. Very courteous with one another, courteous with your minister, courteous with each other. Now, this is one in practice beforehand. I wanted to remind Vanessa about this. Tension. There is and will be and needs to be tension. If you're slack, you won't have a good relationship. But if you have tension, you can really dance because the tension helps hold the relationship. So honor the tension as a presence for sure. And then pace. You can't get ahead of her, and she can't get ahead of me. You've got to be with your minister in terms of your pace. Pace yourselves together. Thank you. And so, you and your minister are always in an I-thou relationship. You honor each other's personality differences and your soul differences. Soul holds body. Soul of love, not just spirit of love, the whole soul of love. Remain deeply soulful in your relationships. Note that I-thou relationships always have a third element. That third element is a something more. Whether you call it, him, or her, there's a something more. The music and the space invite the lure and act as the lure of love. They bring you together to form the very dance. As you relate with Charlotte, you are also embraced and held in heartfelt relation in a sacred space, the presence of love, the something more. And of course, there's another little reminder. Minister's time off. Make sure you give the minister time off. Sometimes she doesn't want to be on the dance floor. She needs to relax, just like you do. Her family needs her to relax. So let her sit it out every once in a while. Georgia Mountain UUs, may you thoroughly enjoy and gain greatly from your heart dance with your precious minister, the Reverend Charlotte Arsenault. Blessings on you, on the wonderful and promising new relationship that has now been formed officially, ceremonially. God bless, Goddess bless, Namaste, Mazel Tov.
Well, so Roy, I get to say Mazel Tov. For those of you who don't know, I'm a Unitarian and I'm representing the UU Jewish clergy. Mazel Tov. I'm going to let Charlotte sit down and rest while I talk to you. But it's been my absolute privilege and pleasure, and will continue to be my absolute privilege and pleasure to be your colleague. It was my absolute joy to be for a time your official mentor as you sought final fellowship in this Unitarian Universalist ministry, which meant, of course, being co-mentors and co-mentees, one for the other, getting to know you in layered and wonderful ways. Yesterday, just before I took off on a walking 5K, which began at a local elementary school, I happened to look at the door to the gym, and posted there were a half-dozen laminated placards listing values, personal qualities that the kids who go there are reminded every day to aspire to. Cooperation, curiosity, independence, integrity, empathy, enthusiasm, and a few others that came out too blurred as I hastily captured them with my smartphone camera. And I thought, what they are being invited to do as young students is what we as ministers, you as a minister, are asked to do to cultivate positive human attributes, beginning with recognizing what those are, remembering how our belief, our Unitarian Universalist belief in inherent worth tells us that we only have to lift up to promote these traits of character within ourselves because they are already there. They're already there. Charlotte, you have so clearly and so admirably, so transparently shared with me and this afternoon with others, the concrete ways in which you will feel you will have a successful ministry in this congregation. Defining its identity beyond mission and vision, supporting and nurturing its lay leaders, helping them to recognize their own gifts, setting GMUUC up for long-term success financially and spiritually and relationally and spatially, empowering congregants to use their privilege, you told me, and their voices in louder and more visible ways to affect change locally and on a larger scale. You have identified with me your personal goals for this ministry in an equally, more than lucid, eloquent, and succinct manner to remain engaged in your professional growth. Continue to attend to your self-care, striving for balance in your work and family life, to learn how to open up your heart and mind in ways that challenge you and make you uncomfortable, as you told me, in healthy ways and to deepen your pastoral authority. I charge you, or rather affirm for you, that these are commendable hopes and desires and doable, really doable, in co-ministry with the members of this congregation whose respect and trust and love for you is so evident, so evident. But, or rather yet, or rather and, I charge you to create your own placards. Find a place on your own wall, here or at home, or on a doorway, or perhaps better still on your mirror, on which you list those qualities, your essence, which you bring to your ministry here, your ministry wherever you go, your being in this fragile and troubled and precious world. So I want to tell you what they are, okay? You are kind. You are capable. You are thoughtful. You are curious. You are centered. You are so centered. You are nurturing. You are well-grounded. You are down to earth. And you're passionate about justice. I would add to this list of what already describes you, qualities you may or may not already have in full glory. And that's okay, because you have the luxury of time and experience. Because these are the descriptors of a just-formed Facebook group for your women colleagues over 50. So, I would ask you to add wild. I would ask you to add powerful. I would ask you to add nasty. And I would ask you, above all, to add dangerous. As a closing charge to you, Charlotte, this is in haiku form, okay? I charge you to keep 5, your bouquet of quality 7, fresh in mind and in heart. May it be so.
I'm not going to let you rest. Come on up. You've rested. Yes. Charlotte, it is a joy to be with you today, to be part of this celebration and affirmation of your ministry with this congregation. It is a special joy and an honor to offer you the hand of collegiality. Offering the hand of collegiality is a ritual that is extended when a minister is ordained and formally welcomed into the larger community of ministerial colleagues, and at ceremonies of installation when a colleague is welcomed among a particular group of colleagues. You've been a blessed colleague in this particular group for several years, but now you enter, and we enter together, into a more settled and committed relationship, both with this congregation and with your colleagues in this region. In the spirit of this deeper sense of belonging and commitment, I literally will offer my hand and welcome you. Before I do that, I want to make sure you know that this hand is literally my hand, but symbolically, this is also Mary Catherine Morin's hand, who offered her hand to me at my ordination. Symbolically, mine is also Marty Keller's hand. She offered me hers when I was installed as the minister at the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Gwinnett. Symbolically, mine is also the hand of Ginger Luke and Carol Taylor. They nurtured me as a religious educator, and we are religious educators. Symbolically, mine is also the hand of Kathy Rickey and Margaret O'Neill and so many others who walked with me through the formation process as we grew into our call together. Symbolically, mine is also the hand of Scott Alexander, Harris Reardon, and Gail Tapscott. They believed in me when I didn't yet believe in myself and encouraged me through their skillful supervision of my ministerial formation. Symbolically, mine is also the hand of Alice Silty, Linda Olson-Peebles, and Elaine Strawn. These colleagues mentored me, challenged me, and supported me through my years of preliminary fellowship. Symbolically, mine is the hand of all the colleagues who shaped and supported me, and all of the colleagues who shaped and supported them, and so on. Charlotte, we are colleagues called to and engaged in serving this Unitarian Universalist faith that we love. I put my hand in yours so we may do together what we cannot and should not and do not do alone. I know you will not hesitate to reach out for the hands of your colleagues. I know you know they and we are there. Let mine be merely a reminder. You are never, ever alone in this ministry.
As I extinguish the chalice, I invite you to remember the words you have heard today. That we are to love the hell out of the world. That we are to love one another. That we are to love our minister as she loves you. That's what it's all about in your work. And be profligate with that love. Do not be parsimonious, for you have access to unlimited love that is infinite. So all you have to do is be a conduit to that love and let it pour through you, and you never have to worry about running out. Remember, more than anything else, you are loved more than you can ever imagine.
Amen.